Welcome back to the Lowdown podcast and the really most anticipated, it feels like, episode where we've been teasing for weeks is finally here, where we talk about the quarterbacks, the free agency. It's mid-February. We all know March means the start of the new league year, free agency, really exciting time.
Yeah, we celebrate a different kind of March Madness around here.
And I'm just looking at the list of quarterbacks we have available in free agency or who might get shipped off. Names, of course, now we know officially Aaron Rodgers, not going to be a New York Jet. Sam Darnold, who improved a lot last year. We've got the two Steelers, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson. Is Derek Carr going to stay with the Saints? He's not a free agent, but he's older. He's struggled a little bit. He's been injured. One of a lot of folks' favorite, Jameis Winston, and Geno Smith, who's had up and down years, along with Kirk Cousins, who was not so good last year. And then we got a couple of rookies that are going to be interesting to watch for. Where does Cam Ward go? Where does Shedeur Sanders go? Got some other guys like Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers, Kyle McCord. I actually think, and this is just a quick take, that veterans might be better off this year than the guys who are going to get drafted. But let's all put that aside and get started with our takes, because that's why you're here. Want to kick it off?
Yeah. Well, the very first team I want to talk about, I think they are in the most abysmal situation. Just the Cleveland Browns, their cap situation, the Deshaun Watson situation, the fact that we're watching Baker Mayfield ball out in this process, it's got to be so painful as a Cleveland fan. And I don't think Stefanski is to blame. We remember 2019, he was the OC in Minnesota, and he led them to, the first playoff win in a while. And you know who his quarterback was, right? Kirk Cousins. Why does he not just bring him into Cleveland? He's going to take the minimum, because if he gets the axe from Atlanta, he reunites with Kevin Stefanski, that's Kirk Cousins' only playoff win as well. They can kind of push back the Deshaun Watson situation till next year, have him on IR. A lot of people don't even expect him to play. And see if Kirk, has anything in the tank. If they're not sold on either one of these quarterbacks, then it buys you 1 year this year, and then you can make a decision on Deshaun Watson next year. And if Kirk balls out, then you're in a great situation. Now you have an edible cap hit with Deshaun Watson in 2026, and if you want to cut him, you can. If you want to trade him, you can. So it at least buys you a year to figure it out. So I really like that, Cleveland picking up Kirk Cousins, reuniting him with Stefanski, and seeing what they can do together.
I like reuniting people. I think that is a lot of what happens in the league. You get, whether it's coaches with other coaches, coaching staff, or players with coaches. And in my pick, I'm going a little bit of a reunite kind of theme as well. How about Pete Carroll? I did talk about it.
You did.
Coaching podcast. I didn't actually think it was going to happen. And here we are. Pete Carroll, coach of Raiders. It only makes sense to bring in a vet you're comfortable with in Russell Wilson, because I think they are going to probably draft some other players. I think they're a team that could win now with a couple of extra pieces. We'll see what Kansas City does next year. They do have a tough division in the upcoming Broncos and the Chargers, but they have a very good defense. You get a couple playmakers on offense. I think it starts with a veteran quarterback. And then I look for them to draft Dylan Gabriel in round 3. He's a West Coast quarterback, so it solves two problems. If you are going for a rookie, you have that potential, but then also bring in a familiar vet. Pete Carroll likes the West Coast type of offense. I think Dylan Gabriel, of the rookie quarterbacks, makes the most sense on top of Russell Wilson.
I like both of those things, because I think the Raiders, they need their players to buy in right now. We see the disgruntled Max Crosby. And Dylan Gabriel, really, if you watch the Oregon game, yeah, they lost, their playoff game. But Dylan Gabriel gave it his all. You saw he was, especially second half of that game, he's putting in effort. You could tell he's going to be a winner. The next team we're going to talk about, the New York Giants. Oh man, what a storm it's been in Jersey this year with the Jets, Giants. Oh my gosh. But Brian Daboll, he finally gets his guy. He was inherited Daniel Jones, and they had their playoff win his first year, so you kind of by default had to give Daniel Jones the contract. Gave him the axe this year. Now what? There's been rumors about this and that. I think Dayball wants to get his guy. He wants to stop playing games. And who better than Shador Sanders to fill that role? He has the highest ceiling out of any quarterback in this draft. Yeah, there's some concerns off the field, but he can definitely handle the spotlight. We know that. And that's been a lot of issues with these New York quarterbacks. It would be awesome to see him in the New York, the limelight, and to see if Dayball can channel him with Malik Neighbors, and then we saw some of their rookies, perform well last year. So I would really like them to just improve on the youth of their team and not try to do anything crazy. Think out of the box. Just get your quarterback, Dayball. Get your guy and go. And for those who don't know, Brian Dayball was the one who broke out Josh Allen in Buffalo. So he has the potential to unlock a quarterback. People thought he would do that with Daniel Jones. It never really happened. So I really want to see him get his guy.
And speaking of Jersey, we're not going to move. We're going to stay in the New York Jets side of things. As you talked about, it's been a firestorm over there. And now we know officially that Aaron Rodgers is not coming back. I became a Florida State fan living in Tallahassee, Florida. And I'll tell you what, Jordan Travis, he was phenomenal before he broke his leg in game action last year. He's a very talented quarterback. Florida State really fell off after Jordan Travis got hurt. I think Jordan Travis, you go with him. And there's a couple of quarterbacks you could probably go with in the second, third round. I think if Kyle McCord is still there in the third round, you could pick him up in case Jordan Travis doesn't work out because he is a project quarterback.
Do you expect the Jets to get any veterans in the room?
How about Justin Fields? He brings a dynamic playmaking ability. We saw the beginning of the year with the Steelers that he was winning games. And being a fan of the NFC North, you've seen what Justin Fields can do. I think he has a high ceiling. He's not quite as old as Aaron Rodgers. And so this is also a guy who could be in a development phase too. Maybe you get the most out of Justin Fields with a good running game. They have two really good running backs back there, including Breece Hall, really good receivers, Garrett Wilson. And I really think Aaron Glenn is in that win now mode. Whoever he brings in, I think that'll give them, he thinks, the ability to win now. So I really like Justin Fields going to the Jets.
I like that too. And don't discount that, hey, he played really good against me scouting. Justin Fields has had his way with Aaron Glenn's defenses.
Yeah.
One of the few. Speaking of the Steelers, from where Justin Fields came from, now they're in a bit of a situation. I don't see them bringing either of these guys back because, there won't be a jump in their offense by bringing back Wilson or Fields. They've had quarterback issues ever since the departure of Ben Roethlisberger. He gave them a lot of good years with Tomlin. And the last time they were in the Super Bowl was 2011. They played the quarterback they're going to bring to their team, Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. Neither one of these players or teams have been to the Super Bowl since this day. Mike Tomlin has been getting the side eye from the organization and the fan base where it's like, yeah, you're making the playoffs, but what? Last time we went to the Super Bowl, it was a loss to Aaron Rodgers in 2011. They're two giant personalities who seem to be stubborn. If they can hone it together, they already have a solid defense, a solid culture, something Aaron Rodgers can't really taint there in Pittsburgh. They already have the loose ties, Aaron Rodgers with Pittsburgh, with his frequency on the Pat McAfee show. As silly as it sounds, he's falling in love with the city of Pittsburgh through Pat, through their friends. and he kind of embraces the city of Pittsburgh. Um, I see it as a bit like better fit than a lot of other people do, but I don't think that's where they end. I think in addition to getting Aaron Rodgers to appease the people who we want a young guy too, they make a trade. The same kind of package they got for Kenny Pickett, they make a similar trade and get Will Levis. Have Will Levis sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, someone who already has his confidence shaken. And I think Aaron Rodgers could only do good for him. I think a new setting, a new situation for both of these players, you could turn around and make this a win now and a win later situation. Will Levis being on his third year of his rookie contract, you still got an extra year before you make a decision with him. I think it's a perfect scenario you can get yourself in. They have, I believe, 45, around 45 million in cap space. If they got to pay Rodgers some extra money, they can. They can bring in weapons. I like it. I like Aaron Rodgers to the Pittsburgh Steelers, along with them trading for Will Levis.
I did not think you were going to go that direction with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and can't say I hate it. I mean, they have a really good defense, kind of that win now mode. I like it. Let's go to the Saints because they're in a situation where first two games of the year, we were like, wow, this Saints team is looking good. Alvin Kamara's back. No, that did not last very long. Derek Carr started playing shaky. You're wondering what's going on in the future with the Saints. I actually think they keep Derek Carr. They don't ship him off anywhere. Give him another opportunity. He's got 2 million, 2 years, 130 million left on his contract. So keep the guy for another 2 years unless he really does not look good this year. Then you can get rid of him. I say go for a mid-round pick too, and get Quinn Ewers. I think he's a type of quarterback that fits the Saints. You'd like to see them bring in another running back, but I think of Quinn Ewers, a guy who likes play action, who's really good on the deep pass, and I think that's the kind of culture that New Orleans has always been about. We run the ball, we play action, and we play defense. Their defense is getting old. They need to revamp that. But I think if you're going to start rebuilding the offense, get back to that core of let's run the ball first and let's see what more we can get out of Derek Carr.
I like that thought process.
Yeah.
I
And
like that.
let Ewers sit underneath Derek Carr a year. Maybe it's not a year, but at least some time underneath to develop. And then you're set for a pretty good situation, assuming Quinn Ewers turns into a pretty good NFL quarterback, which I think he will.
It makes so much sense because Kellen Moore, everywhere he's gone, he doesn't try to change the team. He was in Dallas. He was like, what does Dallas do best? He made sure his offense did what Dallas does best. Philadelphia got the most out of that. He didn't change it. He elevated it. I expect him to do the same with New Orleans. I love that take. So the next team we got here is we're going to talk about the San Francisco 49ers. They're an interesting team because we know that Brock Purdy is up on the last year of his contract. They're aging out. A lot of the stars might be on the move, but I don't expect them to make any moves. Like I said, he's on the last year of his contract. They can ride out this year and say they have another miracle season and they do fantastic and they do great and they make it far into the playoffs. Then they're going to have to deal with that. Are we going to sign Brock or not? But with the quarterback draft class the way it is, I don't expect them to take anyone to uproot him. The only possibility I can see happening, a quarterback exchange, would be if the 49ers start off extremely poor. They don't want to pay Brock and they just ship him out before the deadline. That's the only scenario I could see them making a change at quarterback, which honestly isn't all that unlikely. If they start off this year, how they started off last year, I could see Brock Purdy getting shipped out and then starting from scratch because Shanahan's fuse is getting short. He's not going to keep having these chances to blow leads and not win with a super team. Even though he is a Shanahan, he is viewed as a very talented coach. There comes a point in time where it's like, you got to win something. Even the Eagles let go of Andy Reid because he didn't win the big game. So I expect there to be some pressure on that whole organization. If they don't win this year, something's got to happen.
All right, how about the Colts? This is really interesting because you talked about Pat McAfee earlier and his relationship with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is always on that show. Maybe Pat has sold him on going to Indianapolis. The Colts are notorious for bringing in vets. They haven't been able to figure out a quarterback situation for years since Andrew Luck. Really, I mean,
Yeah.
Andrew Luck was really good for several years. It's hard to follow up Peyton Manning, but Andrew Luck was good. And then since Andrew Luck had an early retirement because of injury, they just have not found it out. They drafted Anthony Richardson a few years ago, thought this was going to be the guy. He's been plagued with injury. I think you keep him on his rookie contract, which is 2 more years. But why not bring in Aaron Rodgers? Keep Anthony Richardson on the bench, continue to develop him in his health because, to be honest, there's a good chance he's going to get hurt again this year. It's a theme. So bring in Aaron Rodgers and bring in Devontae Adams. I think they're a package deal, as I said before. Do I think they're a team capable of winning now? I think given the state of the AFC South, you never know who's going to win. And
Yeah.
not bring in a vet right now to see if he can get him AFC South title. Who knows? That division's a mess. You've got Houston, which is right now the top team, but if Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams come, who knows? Could be different.
I like the Colts defense too. They got a lot of studs on that defense. A
Yes.
lot of studs. One of my favorite defenses in the NFL is
And
the
I don't
Indianapolis Colts.
realize because of the record how good that defense can play.
D line is nasty.
Literally what I was about to say. That defensive line is hard to run on, and they bring a lot of pressure. So why not take a shot?
I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. Oh man, I can't wait for this offseason. The Colts are the biggest mystery, man. The biggest mystery. I have no idea.
But you do know what the Titans are going to do, right?
Yeah, I do know what the Titans are going to do. And I've been doing a lot of research on the Titans this year, and I'm becoming a sub-Titans fan. Um, as we've talked about at length, their GM, Mike Borgonzoli, he comes over from the Kansas City organization, and he's talked about it in depth that how important it was for them to have an Alex Smith to help develop a high ceiling caliber player like a Patrick Mahomes, and how it was an in-rooted plan. It wasn't an accident. And he's going to use this method in Tennessee, and he's not going to pass up generational talent. Well, he is in a perfect scenario now. And listening to reports about what teams expect to do with Sam Darnold, I heard one very interesting the other day. Albert Breer was having a conversation with Colin Cowherd on the Colin Cowherd show, and he said something very specific that caught my attention. He said that don't be surprised if teams don't try to sign Sam Darnold as a long-term solution, but more as an Alex Smith. Hearing that, knowing what more their GM Borgonzoli has to say about, wants to do, it makes all the sense in the world for him to bring Sam Darnold in with that first overall pick, accumulating draft capital, developing a high ceiling guy, drafting him like a Milrow to sit behind Darnold for 2-3 years. He's a young guy. He can develop into the kind of quarterback they want for their team. They're already offensive line first team. Sam Darnold's played with a shaky O-line, so any help he gets additionally, he'll love that. I think the Tennessee Titans are building a nice receiving core. Calvin Ridley had a nice comeback season last year. If Joe Burrow didn't win comeback player of the year, I think he had his name in that ring. Played outstanding. So I really like the marriage of that. Bringing in Sam Darnold, instead of being your long-term solution, but sign him to maybe that Baker Mayfield contract from last year, but having the expectations of him being an Alex Smith and maybe that second, third year of his contract, ship him out, get some draft capital, and see what Milrow has behind your developed team.
Yeah, I think the best way to make young quarterbacks successful is to do that. And I mean, Patrick Mahomes is a perfect example of that. And just thinking about the quarterbacks available in the draft this year, I think that's going to be best for them. And I think that that would allow Milroe to certainly reach his ceiling because I don't love Milroe, but I think he has a lot of upside. So that's a really good take there.
And a lot of his negatives are fundamental, not talent based. I think the things that can be coached.
All right, so we're going to go to Seattle. And again, if you watched our mock draft episode, we already talked about this, but Seahawks, they're going to be able to draft a quarterback in round one. As I'm thinking that Cam Ward is actually going to fall to Seattle in the first round. I think a lot of the focus in the early parts of the draft are going to be offensive line or defensive line, edge rushers. And again, Shedeur Sanders being the only quarterback to go before him. I think Cam Ward falls to the Seahawks. And they have Geno Smith on the last year of his contract. So it gives Geno Smith kind of a last hurrah, if you will, with the Seattle Seahawks. If he does well, he'll play through the season, and then you get Cam Ward next year. If he doesn't play well, Cam Ward gets the opportunity to play earlier in the season. And with a really good run core, some awesome receivers, I would be shocked if Seattle wouldn't be able to win with Cam Ward now. A very good young defense as well. So Cam Ward, he would be falling into a very good situation if that was the case.
It'd be a very similar to like the JJ McCarthy situation, the weapons, the quarterback in front of him. That'd be perfect for Cam Ward and the Seahawks. I love it. Now that we've talked about the teams who are looking to get new quarterbacks, how about we talk about the teams who have quarterbacks that we expect to improve? I'm going to start first. There's a team and a player that I really liked the second half of last year, and that's Bryce Young with the Carolina Panthers. What he was able to do after his benching was so impressive. Post benching, he threw for 2,104 yards, 15 touchdowns to only 6 interceptions, another 5 touchdowns rushing. A 4-6 record with that roster is very impressive, especially with one of those losses being a single-digit loss to KC, another single-digit loss to Philadelphia, the 2 Super Bowl teams, and an overtime loss to Tampa Bay. He played outstanding. He's showing leadership skills. And on top of that, they have a good receiving core. Adam Thielen's proven to be a great leader and a consistent receiver when he stays healthy. Leggett, they drafted last year, very high ceiling guy. He showed inconsistencies, but his very last year at South Carolina had a great year. If he gets the ball rolling, I think he'll be awesome. And one more player to keep your eye out in this receiving core is Jalen Coker. I watched an interview with Bryce Young and John Gruden, and he could not stop talking about Jalen Coker. He was an undrafted free agent rookie last year. He walked on and instantly captured the attention of the whole team. And they said that he just kept grinding, working for reps, working for playing time. And next thing you know, he's someone that they have to game plan for, to get him balls, get him reps, get him touches. He's someone that's going to keep emerging in their offense. So anyone who's listening for fantasy football purposes and you want a sleeper, Jalen Coker, look out for him.
We love the nice fantasy football tidbits that you're throwing in there. I'll have to keep that in mind when we draft next year. The quarterback that I'm going with in most improved might not be a surprise, but I think Caleb Williams is going to be the guy that is most improved. So we've seen a lot of flashes, of course, when he was at USC, and he's a quarterback that is a dual threat guy. He can run, he can pass. There was some decision-making issues, I think, or waiting too in the pocket for Caleb Williams, trying to make too much happen when his first read isn't there. And I think Ben Johnson will be a guy to be able to put him in a successful situation. And just to go over some statistics with you for folks who just want to go out and say, Caleb Williams was horrible. He's a trash quarterback. He had one interception the second half of the season. So I think that was since week 8, he had one interception. That just goes to show you he's able to protect the ball. And if he has other guys around him, which very good receiving core in Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift is a good running back. You get a better offensive line around. I think Caleb Williams is going to have an opportunity to rewrite the script for his career this year.
I like that. And the emergence of potentially Roman Dunze was a high draft pick last year.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for our quarterback episode. Much anticipated. Are these quarterbacks you're a fan of, or are you not a fan of our takes? We want to see what you want your team to do. Are you okay with your current quarterback? Are our takes a little too crazy for you? Not crazy enough? We want to hear them. Any last thoughts on our quarterback podcast?
Is there any teams we didn't cover? I know some people have been saying, what about the Rams? What about the Vikings? What about is there teams we missed? Let us know. Like, subscribe, comment, and we'll see you guys next time at the Lowdown Podcast.
See you in the next video. Have a good week.